Welcome to Medical Intuition Illuminated, the podcast bringing light to the wisdom of the body. I'm your host, Laura Wise, a medical intuitive and psychic medium dedicated to helping you understand the subtle and layered ways your body communicates. Here, we explore the meeting point of intuition, physiology, and energy, approaching the body not as a puzzle to fix, but as a wise, expressive system that's always speaking. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and it does not replace professional healthcare, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns. Before we dive into the episode, I want to share something that I'm really excited about. I'm offering a free live class called The Body Listening Experience on May 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. It's a guided practice where I'll teach you a simple way to check in with your body, understand what it's communicating, and gently release what it still may be holding physically, emotionally, or energetically. If you've ever felt like your body is trying to tell you something, but you don't quite know how to hear it, this class is for you. You can register for free using the link in the show notes. I'd love to have you there. This episode contains a real medical intuition session. All participants are anonymous, and any identifying details have been edited out to protect privacy. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to start with my disclaimer and that I am not a licensed medical practitioner. And while we'll be talking about the body and the different organ systems, I'm not going to be diagnosing. I'm not going to be saying that I can cure anything. Along those lines, I won't be talking about any named conditions unless it's something that you bring up and you want to talk about the energy of. Also, I might be offering recommendations around foods, supplements, things your body likes, things your body doesn't like. And I do that all with the caveat that you check in with your own personal care team before making any changes to your routine. All right?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm so excited.
Great. And before we get started, do I have your permission to read you and your body and your energy today?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and reach my energy out to you. And I start at the top of the head, where I usually get kind of like how your mind works, sometimes how you receive intuitive information. The first thing that's coming up is just this like overwhelming feeling of joy, just like so much positivity, so much joy that you bring to the world. And this is actually joy. They're showing me it's joy that's come from having gone through hard times and been hard won. You know, it's not something that just, it is naturally a part of your essence, but it's so much more meaningful because it's been, you know, it's like the contrast of seeing it from the darkness to the light. So that's really beautiful. And I also see that you're somebody that's just like, you're really in your intuitive gifts kind of all the time, right? It's, they're really pointing to ears in particular as being like, you hear things, you hear sounds, you hear the high pitched noises and all of those things. And, that you've really cultivated a lot of grounding within that space. So they're actually showing me you're pretty good at like, when it gets too loud, you have some tools for keeping that from overwhelming you, which is wonderful. If that makes sense to you. Let me look into the eustachian tubes. So I will say the eustachian tubes from the sinuses, they just look a little bit kind of like seasonally irritated, just like there's been a little dryness from cold through there, but I'm not seeing it as necessarily a chronic pattern. I would say, if anything, you run more on the wet side, but that's just been kind of some wind influence through there. And that might actually go into some of the ears as well. So there might be some kind of irritation from all the way through those eustachian tubes. I am feeling a little bit of pressure through the front of the temple too, and that feels like there may be some things related to they're showing tension headaches in particular, and they're showing the way that it will go down into the jaw and into the side of the neck. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and they're saying it's kind of, yeah, it's like really tension. It goes all the way down into the shoulders and down the back as well. Um and yeah, they're saying it's many things, but they're really talking about just this the stress level that you've been under recently has been contributing to that a lot because they're saying you like to be busy and you like to keep busy, and then sometimes the busyness kind of takes over everything, and you're like, oh wait, that's actually too much busyness. That's going on. I see also they're showing me your throat and just how much like energy is coming out of your throat, just like how powerful your words are, how much you've cultivated that throat chakra, and how deeply tied into like your life's work and mission that is for kind of speaking truth to people. And it's, you've been a truth teller your whole life. Like that's part of just who you are in your mission. It's something that but you're more recently getting that like tightened up, I would say, and like getting it really honed in to be like laser precise is what they're showing me, to say exactly the right thing. But you've always been kind of able to call those things out. They are showing me a little bit of stuff in the teeth and the gums, so particularly some irritation through the gums, and they're almost showing it as kind of like part of that wetness pattern. We'll see more in digestion what that looks like when we get into what those temperatures and moisture pattern is, but yeah, I am seeing that there's been a little bit of irritation through those gums. They are saying that you're addressing that on your end already, if that makes sense to you. Yeah, and I'm seeing kind of some stuck mucus through the eustachian tubes as well. And that feels a little bit chronic, is what they're saying. And maybe even some back of the throat, kind of the nasal drip that goes down as well. That's kind of a chronic thing as well. So we're going to move into the lung space. Let me take a look at lungs. Okay, so they are showing me a little bit of a grief pattern in the lungs, and they're showing it to me kind of at the top of the lungs. So that's telling me this is a more recent grief that you're still kind of processing. They are pointing this to be related to some passings that have happened recently in your circle. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. They're also calling it out as like world grief a little bit as well, of just because you have such a strong voice, like calling things out and not necessarily always receiving, not always having that heard in the way that it needs to be, and a little bit of grief around kind of the breakdown in communication that's happening everywhere. And just kind of like you want to you're very good at fixing problems, and that's what you do a lot of times for your friends and your family and like everybody around you. And there's a lot of things in the world right now that are like not fixable, and to you they're very simple and clear on how to fix them, and people are not like reacting the same way to things about that. There's like all this unnecessary complication, and it's like it's frustration that's turned into grief. Is kind of what they're showing me. They're saying that's not something that we need to necessarily clear out of your lung space. You have a lot of tools for processing those particular emotions, and what's happened around the passing and the grief. As well, you're very good at talking through things, so you move that out of your body as you need to. It's just still present in your lungs. Let me look into heart space. Wow, you have a powerful heart. Oh my gosh, it's just simply glowing. It's just, they're showing me the connection between, again, your heart and your throat right now is so potent that it's just, it's really just like flowing. It goes from the heart right out of your mouth, it goes through the throat, and then you just are able to really speak directly from the heart. In such a beautiful way. I do sense a little bit of sensitivity on the left side of the heart and protection around the left side of the heart. And when I look at the different sides, the left side is often more related to what our own perceptions of ourselves and our own kind of, self judgments that we might have. The right side is more about kind of our external experience of giving and receiving love. So I am sensing a little bit of protection around that left side of the heart. And they are pointing to some patterns from childhood around that dynamic that, and they're saying this is something that we're going to work on in the healing portion. So we'll unpack that a little bit more when we get to that. But they're particularly talking about kind of peer interactions in childhood of like, certain kind of friendship or, peer dynamics that were present at a certain period of time. So we'll unpack that later if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Let me just take a note of that here. Okay, so let me go into digestion. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about digestion. We'll spend a little time here. So it's interesting because initially I was getting, I do still feel kind of a wet pattern throughout, but sometimes the stomach can go dry and it's been going a little bit cold as well. So while there is a lot of juiciness that, will come in, it also it's almost like the digestion gets really tired and doesn't always have a ton of digestive fire within it. So it's like there's enough digestive juices, but then it's just like it's almost like the energy peters out as far as, and things will just kind of sit there for a long period of time and not be able to move through as quickly as you want. And they're showing me there's a lot of just frustration around diet in general and like what trying different things and like they work for a little bit and then maybe things change and then it's kind of like a lot of just like frustration and confusion about what your body actually wants because it feels like it wants one thing and then you give it to it for a while and it's fine and then it like things completely shift and then suddenly it doesn't work. Does this make sense to you?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's a lifelong struggle.
And so part of something they want to call it is that your digestion is naturally slow and that you take your time to process things. Like you take the time to process your emotions. You have very complex emotions about things. Like you're able to talk about them directly, but like the way that they present, it's almost like they present in layers and you get this first layer of it and you have to process that. And then you're like, oh, actually, I feel like X, Y, and Z. And then you have to process that. And then there's kind of another deeper layer of like, oh, that's what it's related to are these root like patterns or traumas or whatever. And so it's kind of you have to go through this process and your digestion will mirror that as well. And it's almost like the way that you process foods is like that as well. So there's like the first layer where you're like, oh, it's working. And then the second layer is like, no, it's not working. And the third, like, maybe it's working. Right. And so it's just a complex system in that regard. And it's, they're bringing up weather and that like weather is really deeply impactful to your digestion as well, which is interesting. So it's like, it really changes on the pattern. And because the weather impacts your mood will impact your digestion. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, and I think it's a generational thing as well.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, it's like you come from a line of people that are always like so in tune with the weather. It's like you can influence the weather. You can, you can tell when it's going to rain like 2 to 3 days out kind of stuff. And that's, yeah, that's a magical thing for sure.
I like the idea of trying to influence the weather. I'm going to do that.
They're particularly talking about like wind, right? So it's like when you're in your power, the wind will kick up. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm definitely going to practice though.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So because your digestion one's cold, you want to kind of try to avoid things that are going to make it a little colder, right? So coconut stuff, and you're saying like nuts in general are irritating for you. And dairy, unfortunately, is a cold flavor. I know cheese is the best, but it is irritating to your system because it kind of shuts things down a little bit. So if you're going to do, yeah, it feels like dairy in general is like really irritating and it's going to contribute to that kind of stuck mucus that's happening as well. Wheat is fine. Do you do animal proteins?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See beef fine. Chicken is irritating. And unfortunately, like the way that chicken is processed in mass quantities and It's often like they have to pump it full of a lot of stuff to keep them alive together. And it's like you're just so sensitive to what they're putting into them that it's not an ideal meat for you. Fish is good. Soy is a no for you also. Soy is irritating. What else? Beans are good. Your body really likes beans, actually, particularly kind of the lighter beans, like the white beans and lentils and things like that. Like not a green lentil, like a red lentil. Let me see if there's yeah, and all the other lamb, pork, all the other one meats feel like they're pretty good. So roughage, like salads for you are really tough. They're going to shut down your digestive system. Like raw vegetables are going to shut down. And so you don't necessarily need like brothy things, but things like really cooked down. Like your food needs to be processed in that way of just kind of breaking it down so that when it gets into the digestive system, it doesn't have to work extra hard to do that. Ginger feels like a great option for you as far as, ginger tea. You could put a little slice of ginger in your water to just kind of warm things up. And also in Ayurveda, they often will recommend starting with like a sweet flavor to get the digestive fire going. So you could start with a little fruit or a little thing like that. Citrus is a cold energy as well. So you might want to avoid citrus. It feels like citrus is actually really irritating for you as well. And they're mentioning kind of what we talked about with the gums, the sensitivity in the gums, like that acid is really irritating for those tissues. It's kind of one of those things to play with because sour flavors and the citrus is also good for sloughing and moving mucus through. So it's something to use in caution. Let me just look at the stomach again. Yeah. Have you had lunch recently? Or
I
food.
did.
Yeah,
Just
so it's
before.
working on stuff. So it's
It's like talking as you're talking. Yeah.
yeah, I feel
Literally, I finished eating like 10 minutes before.
okay, got it. Yeah. So it's working on stuff. So that might be also why I'm seeing it be like so extra juicy is because it just got dumped a bunch of, digestive juices in there, which is wonderful. But yeah, it's just the like sitting there. And when it goes through the digestive tract, it will often cause like some gas and some bloating around that because it just takes so long to go through. And in some ways, almost some malabsorption because of that, because it just sits so long. It's like that digestive tract runs out of energy to process everything. So it's just not always able to get everything out. And then it's like, yeah, when it comes out the end, it's probably, just kind of thick and a little bit slow to get it out as well. Adding a little more fiber would be great for it to just kind of soak up some of that moisture and give it a little more substance as it's moving through. Something like psyllium husks would be really great for you. And then the bean, like we talked about with beans as well, really good at kind of soaking up some of that stuff and moving things along. Let me just see what else in the digestive pattern. And they're actually talking about just warming that area up in general. Like, so even like an external heating pad on your tummy could kind of keep that warmth going, wearing socks because the feet and that area and that abdominal area are connected to each other, like making sure your hands are covered. Because I do see, yeah, your hands get cold as well and your feet get cold.
I'm
Actually,
wearing
not your
two pairs
feet.
of socks right now.
You're wearing socks?
Two pairs.
You're on
I
it.
put little ones on and then I put the big ones over them.
Oh, that's cozy. That sounds lovely. And yeah, just kind of getting some more warming spices into and as well some cinnamon. Ashwagandha would do pretty good with you if you ever do that. I always caution around like you want to ashwagandha is not something you can take like every day consistently. It's very activating and then your body kind of needs breaks. And so I personally will like take it on the second half of my cycle and then I'll, because I don't need it for the big uptick, but I kind of need it during that peter out of my other hormone. So that might be something to look at. It translates to horse sweat.
Mm.
So it's really an activating, I know it's an activating herb. And so, yeah, something like a golden milk that has like turmeric and cardamom and, all these warming spices, and then ashwagandha also. That would be a really great option for you. Yeah, because I am seeing like sweet flavor. You do like sweet flavors as well, right? Some honey in there and make it really yummy. And yeah, like we said, dairy is tricky, and nut milks. So maybe something like an oat. Oat feels like it's good, like it works good for you. Yeah, another great fiber source as well. Okay, let me look at kidneys. Okay, so that's interesting. I do see kidneys have a little bit of a tired energy to them. And it's interesting, the rest of your body is kind of wet, but they're presenting a little bit dry at this time. And this could be partly seasonal and like the wind picking up and things related to that. But it's also just kind of, they're almost pointing to that sometimes it's hard for your body to hold onto the liquids. Like they just kind of go through you really quickly. And so something you could try is just adding some natural sea salt to your water to allow your cells to plump up and hold that as electrolyte. Chia seeds is also would be great for you, putting some in some water and drinking those. And then again, that's another source of fiber to bulk up. And the seeds kind of like get this like mucusy outside, which is really great. But they are also pointing me to the adrenal pattern that you have. And it's your adrenals are pretty on, they're pretty activated, and it's like intermittent though. So it's like it's almost like things will calm down, and then there'll be these like spikes of adrenal that happen. And they're actually pointing this a little bit to kind of some stuff from childhood or some trauma or some like events that kind of really activated them. And then there's almost like this checking in of like, I need to be worried about everything. Okay, everything's fine. And I need to be worried about, right? And so they'll like peak and spike. And so that'll be another thing that we're going to work on in the healing portion for unpacking is that adrenal pattern. Let me just write that down here. You have a lot of really good tools for, working with your nervous system. I see that you're using them, but it's almost like this trigger happens at such a subconscious level that you can't necessarily always get in front of it, right? So you're good at like, that's what they're showing me. But the peaks, after the peaks, you bring yourself down, right? And you have all these tools to like, yeah, you like close yourself off and like do all your breathing and do all the things. But like, then it gets activated again, right? And things right now are like very activating on many levels. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look at pancreas. Yeah, I do see pancreas has a bit of a tired energy and kind of the puffy energy, where it's just, yeah, it's kind of inconsistent with how much digestive juices that it creates as well. And so that it might be something that's connected to that digestion just kind of sitting there, is that it's not always able to kind of as readily produce as much juiciness. And they're also pointing this to what we saw in the kidneys as far as them feeling dry, and that like things just go through you so quickly. Yeah, they're almost showing me that because things sit in the digestive tract so long that it's almost like all the juiciness tries to go there to move things through, but it pulls it out of other parts of your body and then throws everything kind of out of balance as a result of that, if that makes sense. Let me see. Let's look at liver. So liver governs the emotion of anger. And I do see that you have you're very good at expressing when you're frustrated about things. You just like get it out, you're just like, actually, like address it immediately. But there's this like sneaky version of anger that sometimes will show up where you're very direct about how you feel, but we talked about how your emotions are layered. And then but then you kind of get to the second layer and you're like, actually, I didn't feel like that at all. But you're like, but it's too late because I already expressed how I felt. Right. And so then you get like complex about your anger in that way. Like it gets a little, yeah, it's like, you're like, actually, I need to reframe this. And then and then you're like, I should apologize. No, I don't need to apologize. And that gets like kind of like a weird loop in your head. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in this practice of recognizing like how powerful forgiveness is.
Mhm. They also want to remind you about forgiving yourself. Yeah. As a layer of this, right? Because it's you're really good at forgiving people and like allowing them to be that, but sometimes it's a little tricky to, especially with the like you have like these layered emotions we're talking about, and like allowing yourself to be multidimensional. I think sometimes you want it to be a little simpler than, but you're a complex feeler. It's not something we need to work on. You're really good at unpacking it and turning it over and looking at it yourself. But the medicine for us is just to kind of surface that and validate that that's how you are, and that's a perfectly reasonable way to be, to have you know complex complex reactions to things. Okay. They are pointing to me, pulling me into the spine in particular, and they're showing that it kind of almost very easily will slip out. Some of those vertebrae will kind of get a little loosey goosey. And part of that is just, again, you're juicy and slippery throughout the whole body, right? And so sometimes it just will go out. They're also pointing to this as the stress and the intensity that we actually were seeing from the head all the way down the neck and the shoulders, is that all of that gets tight and it will kind of pull some of those vertebrae out out of alignment. And so they are recommending doing a little more stretching to kind of get it out. You have the tools, but it's like sometimes you're, again, forgetting about attending to your own needs rather than the needs of those around you, as we all do sometimes. And something else I want to say about that. Yeah, they're kind of pulling into the tailbone and hip area and just saying that it'll kind of affect those sciatic joints and nerves through that area. And it's actually, there's another location of intensity there. They're calling out cranial sacral massage therapy, or if you're familiar with that, as being a really great modality for you, because you have concentrations in those two areas as far as tightness, and then it's like slippery in between. And so if those are kind of, it's like two rigidity areas, and then in between, the spine is trying to balance those and be the flexible part between those elements. And there's a metaphor here in that, like, it's like you have a strong foundation and you have a very strong mind, and then sometimes in between, it's like your body and your emotions are trying to balance the two, like, structures and by be flexible to make it all work, if this makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're saying something about a tender tailbone too, almost like it's a little bit off. You might experience that as a sciatic pain, but it's almost, they're showing the tailbone goes to the side a little bit. It goes almost to the right side a little bit, and I think that's also from the vertebrae moving around a little bit. Okay, let me take a look at lymphatic. Yeah, so lymphatic system is, it's juicy, but it's like a little bit stagnated through it. It needs a little bit more flow. And so this is where, like, you're juicy through the middle part, but like all the in-between places could use a little bit more liquid going through there. And they're actually pointing to kind of some of the stress hormones, like the cortisol and the other hormones that are going through the lymphatic system. There's like so much of them recently that it's causing that stagnation. It's all kind of an overload within the system, a little bit. And just kind of with, seasonal changes, you're going to be moving a little bit more. And so that'll just naturally help the lymphatic system. I am almost seeing a histamine response within there as well. So,
Well, I was going to ask you about that.
it's like,
yeah, I've been dealing with what is not quite chronic, but hives for the last 4 weeks after a virus. Yeah.
And it's like they're showing me it's the point where it's like it's just reacting to itself now. It's in a loop and a spiral, so it's not even like it's almost like the initial irritant is out of the system, but now you're just it's like everything is irritating it now. It's like the dust in the room will get it like kicked up or like like
Went
stress
on
or
a
like the
trip, and
hormones.
I was thinking like I went on a trip and I'm in a different place, and it's still continuing, and like all
Mm.
like originally it was just related to the cycle, and then so now that's
Mm.
still continuing to it's allergic
Mhm.
to me.
um so part of it is also like a cycling of the mind, and so a little bit of is like spinning on it's almost like part of you is keeping it active because you're so worried about it, and then your body's like, oh, I'm supposed to be responding to something, because it mirrors a pattern that you had before that was really stressful for you and concerning and mysterious and like couldn't figure out. And so now it's like you're like, oh, this similar thing is happening again, and I don't know how, I have to figure it out because it's gonna be really bad, right? And so what are they saying to do about it? So definitely getting, some more fresh air and getting outside is going to help kind of clear the passages, but they are almost talking about kind of an elimination diet a little bit to kind of get just your system to calm down in general. But not, you want something of substance, right? It's like a lot of elimination diets just like they don't have a ton of nutrition in them sometimes. You could look at something like Whole30 possibly, which removes a lot of anti-inflammatory foods, but it can be a little challenging to do on a regular basis. But it's like you just doing whole foods with it. But also in Ayurveda, there's like I'll have to look up the recipe, but it's basically like they basically have you eat like dal and rice for like a week, basically, right? And it's like a neutralizing thing, and then you slowly add stuff back in. So, finding something that works with your lifestyle is going to be like the most important thing, but maybe going back to some really basic foods to eliminate the influences so that you can, and they're saying like calm the mind, because part of it is that stress that of like what do I even do or how do I, and it just like you're so activated that there's like anything you eat, you're like, is this going to be the thing that irritates me? And then almost that feeling of the body, then the body's like, do I need to be irritated about this? Right. And it's reacting to it. So if you have certain food, like simplifying down and things that are non reactive, then that's going to help you kind of like just be like peace of mind around it. They also keep bringing up like a lot of times like itchiness and irritation is like related to actual irritation of like being irritated with people. So it's like there might be somebody in particular in your life that is really irritating you right now, but you can't do a whole lot about it.
No, he's only 6.
Right. I feel that.
Kidding.
Yeah. They don't mean to, but it's just how they
No.
are.
Yeah.
Um
Patience.
and just yeah, like so your body is just like, well, I'll deal with it myself, I guess. Um, okay. Let me see what else they want to pull me into. Gonna look into reproductive. Feels like that's generally going well. I would say like it could use a little more flow as far as like things do stagnate a little bit for the cycle, and there it's heavy and it's slow and it's kind of just thick, and I do see. Do you get cramps pretty bad? Yeah. Or
No, well,
medium?
I'm pretty lucky. I mean, I would say like every couple of months for sure, but I'm generally pretty lucky in that respect.
That's great. Um, and it feels pretty regular too. Like it's, yeah, pretty predictable as well. I'm not seeing any pattern in there that anything related to that. Let me look into nervous system. Yeah, again, I'm seeing the same in the nervous system that we talked about with the adrenals of like that kind of activation and then calm and the activation and then calm with it. Other than that, I feel like the nervous system is functioning pretty good. The one thing I will say is just adding a little more raw oils and healthy fats into your diet too to just kind of support some of the slipperiness through the digestive tract as well. Again, coconut oil, like nut oils for you is not good. Something like an olive oil is pretty neutral. You could do a sesame seed oil as that's like a warming oil, and sunflower would be fine too. And then, yeah, they're actually pointing out to like animal fats, like, you know, things like tallow and lard and things like that. Really good, actually, for you. They're very grounding for you, also. And they're saying that could also help with some of the histamine response that's going on for juiciness. Okay, I'm going to pause there and check in with you and see if there was an area of your body we didn't get to yet that you wanted to know more about or something we covered that you want more information.
No, I mean everything resonates. So that I was curious to see if the histamine came up because that's the most recent thing, and some of the more chronic things are things that I'm actively working on. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it feels pretty, yeah, present. Just take a look, and we didn't get all the way down legs. Um, you're so grounded. I love that. That's beautiful to see. You must. I don't know if you have a grounding practice that you do, but like I see that you're naturally kind of just really like your feet are touching the earth. We say with that. And yeah, I do see though that there's a little bit of could use some a little more circulation down into the legs and the ankles. That gets a little bit of some of those fluids kind of will pool down there, and so I'd recommend kind of if you could do some oilination and then moving the lymph physically with your hands, and always want to move it towards the heart. So kind of just like moving that out of the feet and then they're showing that the ankle joints will get kind of achy too, just from that intensity down there.
would you use sesame for that or?
Yeah, you could use sesame on your body. Yeah, that would totally work. Jojoba is a great one. Um, there are some like Ayurvedic specific oils that they like infuse herbs into. So that's something you could look into. Some of them are warming.
Maybe even castor oil may be good too.
Yeah, castor oil would also be really great. Yeah, I'm feeling castor oil is really good for you in particular. And it can be kind of sticky. So if you want to mix it with some jojoba, it's that might make it a little easier to apply and feel less weird. And they're also talking to baths. Like baths are so good for you. Like you love them, and like, they're saying that you haven't been doing them as much recently because you're just like busy and you forget. But then you get in when you're like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah,
Like you
every
just
night, every night if I can. And yeah, it's been like a week and a half since I was away, so
oh,
no,
okay.
no baths in Mexico, but I did bathe in the ocean.
Oh yeah, that works too. That's and that has the salt mineral benefits, and like a magnesium bath. Yeah, really good for you. And they're saying like, do you like to make them fun? I'm only seeing like there's like bubbles and like bath salts and like that is like,
Food coloring and lights and like all kinds of stuff. You know those
oh
like
yeah,
the lights where you crack them and then the kids run around with them. Yeah, I put those in the bath.
yes,
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
okay,
sparkles.
yeah,
All
like you. That is a fun bath. Yeah, they really wanted to call that out, and it's like so good for you. Like it makes you so happy that it's.
I practice with like the color therapy, like putting the food coloring in. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting the energy of green right now. So it's like
Wow.
healing and yeah.
Oh, I
So
love
I love
that.
playing with that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm gonna have to try that. I
Yeah.
don't do enough. I don't do enough color
Go for your
therapy in my
feel. Yeah.
baths. um, okay, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think we covered it. Anything else you want to ask about before we move into the healing portion?
Well, what's my thyroid up to these
Oh,
days?
okay. Yeah. Yeah, so part of this is like what we're talking about already with the lymphatic system and the way the hormones and some of these spikes that we're having with the adrenals that we already discussed. Um, They're talking about sleep being really wonky recently. It's like you're having trouble getting into the deep REM, and there might be some like, yeah, it's like you feel like you're sleeping, but then you wake up and you're just like, oh, I didn't sleep at all, even though you went to bed early or whatever. What is this related
It was
to?
circadian rhythm too, because
Yeah.
I was traveling and it was 2 hours
Mm,
different. So it was like the
hmm
bed was uncomfortable, and then I'm waking up like after 4 hours. It's very,
hmm
mamas need their sleep.
Yes. Yeah. Seriously, and it's so hard to get.
Yes.
um, and it feels like, yeah, like part of that is, and those kind of like time changes for your constitution in particular are really hard. Like some people bounce back from them, but for you it's like it really stays with you for like they're saying like 2 weeks or something,
Yeah.
and it'll really
Yeah.
like keep affecting you. um I think that's something else they're talking about with your thyroid in particular is like getting enough sunshine. And you like went through, we're coming out of winter, and so you weren't getting a ton of sunshine, and it's like so good for your, like, you're so, again, we're talking about like weather and nature based, and like your system really regulates through those things, and you haven't been able to do that as much recently, and so it's kind of like gotten slow and sluggish because it thinks it's in a cave.
Yeah. It's months
Something.
months since we've seen the sun, literally. So
Yeah.
that's yeah. It's
Do you ever do any like kind of light therapy or okay, yeah, because
not
that
enough.
helps.
Not enough. I have
Yeah.
it, but again, it's one of those tools where it's like, oh, I got to pull it out and set it up, and yeah,
Right, that's a
I
whole
have
thing.
I have a solar light too, like the
Oh,
vitamin D
nice.
ones. Yeah, but
Hmm.
again, how many times did I use it this winter? Not enough.
And they're also talking about like infrared red light therapy
Yeah,
as well
yeah,
being
exactly.
really, really good.
Yeah.
If you've ever done like an infrared sauna, really good
Hmm.
for you. That would get like deep warmth into some of those areas we talked about. Um, yeah, and then again, the stress and cortisol is throwing off the thyroid a lot as well. I mean, it's just is there anything we need to heal in there? No, you're addressing it, but I think, yeah, like kind of moving some of these hormones, and then the histamine thing like also activated the thyroid situation as well, because it just everything in your body was on high alert for a while.
Hmm.
But what do they say about sleep? Yeah. Do you get like, it's almost like you get intuitive information in the middle of the night too, like all of a sudden, and you're like, I gotta remember this, or like
Yeah.
you have
And then
some
my
weird
heart is
dream.
pounding,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm like, can you just
Mhm.
send it during the day when I'm on the computer? Would be great.
Do you do mediumship? Is that
I
something you ever do?
I work in the Akashic Records, so
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, because it feels like that part in particular is waking up for you, and there's actually you're getting some spirit visitations in the middle of the night
Yeah.
that are like, hello.
Hmm.
And is interesting. They're actually pointing to, because you do Akashic Records. It's like some of these are kind of like lost, wandering spirits that don't know where to go, and you're like this bright light, and they're basically like, oh, thank God somebody knows like what's, what's
Yeah,
happening, and so they're
yeah,
trying to get help. And so you have pretty good energetic boundaries, but this feels like a new piece in that you're learning how to have energetic boundaries in this way with this type of energy. So that's something you might want to do some specific development around. And it feels like you're like
yeah.
thinking about it is what they're showing me, is that you're
And
like
I'm just
really
thinking
thinking
that
about it.
as part of my nightly intentions, I haven't been kind of setting the boundaries around that. And every night
Mhm.
my son is like, are you going to do the prayers, mommy? So I know it helps him sleep too, because he's very intuitive and he's very sensitive to them too. So I don't want
Yeah.
his sleep to obviously be affected by my nighttime visits.
Mhm. And right, like you're not on like you're trying to rest. Like rest is important,
Yes.
right? That's what
Yeah,
you're doing, and it's like you're a helpful soul, and so you're like, I can help, and you're sending out the beacon, but like
exactly.
also like you just like come back in the morning, like I'll
Yeah.
help you then.
That's right.
It's
9 a.m., the doors are open.
those are not office hours. So
Yeah, I haven't been very intentional about that, but yeah, I'll just suddenly wake up and my heart will be pounding. I'll be like, who's there? Who's there? Yeah. It's
mm-hmm.
like they're
Yeah,
not being subtle.
yeah. And then that like gets the adrenals going, and then you're just like, oh, there goes the night for sleep.
Yes, exactly.
So I think that, yeah, because they're really also talking about the thyroid just being like the amount of like growth and spiritual development you've done within this particular time in the last 3 years is
Mhm.
like like so much, and you went like all in and all the time, and it's like there's some integration time that needs to kind of happen as you're kind of just allowing yourself to kind of focus on other things that are not related to that, like read a ridiculous fantasy novel or something like that, right? Where you're not constantly thinking about it or whatever appeals to you along this, do a puzzle, right? But you're just like such a doer that you're
I
like, I'm
took
going
up
to do it
painting.
all right now.
Yeah, totally. I literally took up painting, and that was the only
Oh,
way
perfect.
to
Yes.
move that energy. And it's like creative. It's the inner child. It's like all the stuff I haven't really focused on up till now.
That's perfect. Yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah. And that feels like paint your feelings, right? Is what that feels to
Totally.
me,
Totally.
right? Like, and the color therapy that you're talking
Yeah.
about too. It's
Yeah.
just like, I
Yeah.
am yellow today or
I love
whatever.
it. Totally. Totally. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I love that for you. Okay. Um, anything else? I think we did the thing. All right. So we're going to go ahead and transition into the healing portion now. Following the assessment, we end the session with a healing where we unpack the root causes of the stagnant energies that were surfaced during the walkthrough of the body and systems. The information quickly gets very personal and detailed, so in order to maintain the privacy and anonymity of my participants, I don't share these sections on the podcast. They're also not ideal for an audio format, as they often include long stretches of silence while we work with visualizations, meditations, and other kinds of energy work. Thanks for listening to Medical Intuition Illuminated. If this episode resonated, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit. Special thanks to Derek Ryan for music. Until next time, listen deeply to the wisdom of your body.